My name's Jonathan Milbourn. I work at Harrow Council. Being at Harrow, coming to an Essex conference, you're probably thinking, why on earth should we listen to this guy at the front? Well, just to give you some credibility, I am an Essex boy. I was born at Rochford Hospital in Southend. I don't know if Southend Council are here today. Pleased to meet you. I know Nick, spoken to him on a few occasions. Spent the first 20 odd years of my life in Chelmsford. As a result, I'm unashamedly proud to be a Southend United fan. Felt quite treacherous coming to Colchester today, but our head-to-head record is slightly better than yours, and I'm sure it's going to improve further this season. And if it doesn't, I'm probably unlikely to see you in the next year anyway. So, I now live down the road with my wife in Chelmsford. I've been in Chelmsford for 20 years as well, so a real Essex boy at heart. I suppose slightly more importantly, at Harrow, including unique web visits, about 80% of our interactions are all carried out through self-service. So we do have quite a good track record of shifting people online. However, I will say it's taken us about 6 years to get to this point. So clearly the 20 minutes Nick gave me, well, when Nick tells me I've got 20 minutes, I always take that to mean I've got about 40. But clearly I don't have enough time to go through everything we've done, so I just wanted to pull together a few little things that we've learnt along the way. So very quickly, at Harrow, we have quite a broad offering. We took a decision about 8 years ago to have a single customer service centre. And everything, and I mean everything bar children at risk, is run through customer services. We are the front door for everything that goes on. And on top of that, we actually have quite a deep offering as well. So just over 90% of all transactions or inquiries are resolved within one phone call or at the first point of contact. So we like to get our hands on it, we like to get it sorted, and we like to do everything. In terms of making it happen through a self-service, it's important to us that our systems were integrated, and integrated both to and from CRM. But as I said, we'll go through some of the stuff we learned along the way. I think the first thing to say is do something. I'm sure most of you have started a journey, and that's really important. Over the last 2 years, we've had just over about 100 different councils come to see what we do, different aspects of channel shift and customer services. And what amazes me is when I hear back from them in 6 months to say, well, so-and-so's left and we haven't really got anywhere, can we come and have another look? You know, start getting to grips with what needs to be done and make a start. Put a stake in the ground and get some action. Secondly, is understand the data that you have. It's been very, very important for us at Harrow to understand what's going on. And we tend to try and make our decisions of what's going to happen in the future based upon the information we have to hand. So to give you a few examples, we worked with Experian and their Mosaic product a few years ago to get a really good understanding of who our customers were. We also ran it against all our CRM information. So not only do we understand what the key groups are in Harrow, we also understand what types of services they use as well. So for those of you who don't know Harrow very well, very good access into the city. We found that we have, this was a group called D, young singles, cohabitees. Generally they worked in the city. What we found out about them was they didn't really spend much time in Harrow. They were constantly drinking and smoking, living the high life. And actually they were the second highest group that had council tax summons because they were peeing it up in London rather than being good citizens. So we did a big campaign around the bus stops and the train stations to get them signed up for online direct debits and started reducing the amount of summons they received. Likewise, like a good council, we felt it was important that we saw our citizens from time to time. So because they lived around stations and underground stations, they tended to be in parking permit zones, and like a good authority, we had this process whereby they had to come in to get a new permit, they had to bring in proof that they lived where they said they lived. They had to bring in those V5 documents. We made life as difficult as possible for them, and we lived in this world where we thought that people wanted to spend time in the council's civic centre. So the demographics surprisingly told us that isn't what these people wanted to do. So again, we moved our parking permit information applications fully online and allowed them to do it as they travelled into London. You know, we do know how many people contact us, but we wanted to get quite a good idea about when they contact us as well. And this graph, it was actually around council tax. We were we were working with the back office to suggest that they needed to take a more strategic approach about when they send their bills out, because we were determined that when you send a lot of bills out, the big red line on the left is annual billing, but when they send out lots of bills, we would get lots of calls as a result, so we wanted them to stagger it. Actually, what we found was, first of all, that wasn't particularly true, but secondly was the alignment of when people contact the council. And certainly in the early days, we always used to say self-service is great, 24/7 service, contact the council when you want, not when we want you to. But actually, we find that people even use our website and our online services between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, the same time that they would phone us. To the point we even realised that when people go onto our website, they look at completely different things that they do during the week. So we started changing over what's on our homepage at the weekends to make sure it's a bit more adaptive to what residents look at. Talking of customers, vitally important to get lots of feedback along the line. I saw YouGov, happy faces were outside. We do a lot of customer feedback about understanding what works, what doesn't. Also customer focus groups. We felt we were early adopters of having apply for it, report it, pay it, complain about it. We did some great bit of technology on top of our website. It was fantastic. We got 40 customers in, took them into our IT training room, sort of gave them different scenarios, find things on our website. You can guess how many people used apply for it, complain for it. We took it off the next day. But we still have a good understanding then of how people access various pages on our website. I would say I'm quite a traditional user. If I got a parking ticket, I would tend to go to the council's homepage and then I would start searching for how to pay a parking ticket. The advantage of running the call centre is we have quite a lot of young staff and begin to realise that actually they don't access any service or any online service the same way I do. We found that a lot of the youngsters, they're obviously a lot more effective with using Google, the search engines, and actually they will use Google to do the work to find the exact page they want. So again, we have to think very differently about how we used our website to ensure that we were always promoting the right information all the way through. Likewise, heat mapping. This was a heat map just after the elections, and what it really highlighted to us was residents and citizens and generally people in general actually like Amazon. So this was our homepage just after the election, big picture in the middle there saying ballot box, want to know what happened at the election, click here, and actually virtually everybody, so I'm just trying to see, is there a little light on here? No. But virtually everybody used to Amazon navigation, left-hand side, has clicked down there to find out what happened at the election. So, key to navigation, left-hand side, we use it for viewed tasks, top tasks and most viewed. Across the top, search, predictive search, what's popular needs to come out, and of course, logging into your account. Very similar to what people are used to doing online. The next tip is, I apologise, I didn't see how many people put their hand up to say they worked in IT. But Channel Shift is not an IT project at all. It is fully about people. It is very much a people project. It's about understanding not only what your customers do, but actually how your staff behave. And it's about shifting their perceptions about how things need to work. Just a quick example. We in Harrow, our customer service centre, we deal with about 4 million contacts a year. We've got a population of about 250,000. You work in local authority, how many of you contact your council regularly? We found a similar thing in Harrow that, we'd go around to say, well, what are you doing? Why are you phoning? On average, you phone us 10 times a year. And clearly they don't. So when we took a big chunk, we took 250,000 instances of contact to start looking at who contacted us. And what we found was 25% of the population contact us a hell of a lot. So we started to do work to identify what are the households that have regular contact with us, either face-to-face or over the telephone. And a bit like they did with children's and families, they took the top 100 families to look at, where are there multiple access points in the council. We've done a similar thing with customer services. We've taken the top 100 households who contact us a lot, and we've started to work with them to show them, either what are we doing really badly that you need to contact us, and then started to show them how to access services online. Again, if we get rid of those hundreds, it will take a big chunk of contact out of the contact centre and the face-to-face service. And again, if people move into Harrow, we like to start the digital journey from the start. So when people start completing the move-in form, it starts a whole series of processes. You pay your council tax by direct debit. We sort of register you for the My Harrow account. We start showing you other things. We start using the mapping tool to show you what else is available in the borough. If you have a parking permit, it will sign you up automatically. If you've got children, we'll take your dates, and when you're due to start pushing out for school admissions, we'll let you know when the windows are open. You know, and it goes on that, you know, everything is integrated, and we start getting people used to going online rather than having to contact us in different ways. Well, there's lots of forms. The other thing, I'm just showing you the same slides twice. I thought they were that good. The other thing as well is we tend to sit on a lot of information on the account and generally in customer services. We wanted to get a lot better about pushing information out to residents. So we use Gandlake, who are here today, as our customer authentication portal. We store all the letters that go out to residents, so again, rather than them having to keep bringing in bits of paper, or if they go into citizens' advice, or rather than having to keep bits of paper, it's all stored on our online portal. We also use them to send a cover letter out for benefits. I never worked in local government. The first time I saw all the information we send out to a new claimant, I was flabbergasted, and you know, it was no surprise. I think at the time about 60% of people we sent out the new claim stuff to ended up phoning us up to say, I don't understand. So we worked with Gandlake to send a cover letter that says, look, your benefits here have been changed, this is how much you're getting, this is how long it's for. Attached is a lot of crap that, you know, you're probably not interested in being told to do it, so you don't need to phone us. And it wipes out the 60% fell to about 10% overnight. You know, it's a bit of a no-brainer for us. Again, what we also wanted to start doing was pushing more information out, again like the Amazon style, that rather than sit on information and wait for customers to contact us, if we hold it, let's give it to them in advance. So certainly around missed bins or abandoned vehicles, if you've reported something, let us start telling you what's going on with it. And again, that can either be done through mobile or through email. I really don't know what's happened here, but I seem to have doubled up on all the slides. Another thing we've done on a couple of times is try to use letters in different ways. So a few years ago, before individual registration came in, we got permission from the Home Office, or Cabinet Office, I always forget which, to allow people to make changes to the electoral register online. Again, because we had already authenticated people through the account, the government felt it was okay for us to allow people to make those changes because we already knew who our customers were. So the first time we did it, we pushed out this letter to residents. We tried a whole host of different things. We didn't know what would work. So we pointed out all the features of having an online account. We tried to appeal to that sense of save trees, you know, rather than sending you lots of bits of paper, do it online. And when all else fails, allow people to win an iPad. Which I'm sure is why most of you are here today. You saw that chance to win an iPad too. You know, it's again, it just encourages a bit of excitement, gets people to start registering online. Campaigns, again, you can pick up these things quite cheaply. We ran this campaign around bus stops. I think it cost us £300 for about 20 bus stops for a month. You know, scheme of things, 300 quid is quite good value for money. I suppose one of the other things we've done to start changing people's behavioural habits is to actually start closing channels. So in Harrow, we took a hard line around certain services where we felt the online offering was really strong. Parking tickets was the first thing we closed. What we identified was when someone gets a parking ticket, really what they want to do is let off steam. So when we sat in the call centre, 90% of people who got a parking ticket would phone up, shout and swear at my staff, and then pay. Because unfortunately, if you're 20 minutes late, well, it may be a bit harsh, but you were still 20 minutes late. You need to pay the ticket. So being nice to our staff, we stopped our customers shouting and swearing at them and told residents they could only do it online. Which, you know, was a bit difficult with councillors, but we told them by the very nature they received a parking ticket, we know they can drive, so if they really haven't got access, to online services, then actually they can drive to the Civic Centre and we'll show them how to do it. Number of complaints we've received in 4.5 years, certainly less than 5, and I'm struggling to think of 5. Landlords, we've done some work with Ganlake that all their information is available through the secure portal. We no longer talk to landlords about all their tenants. School admissions, I've got a slide about that later. We closed school admissions off this year. Payments is all done online or through self-payment kiosks. Pitch bookings and free school meals. So, where to start? The first place to start is to really have a vision. What are you looking to do? So, a few years ago, we had this great vision of being the best call centre. We won a couple of big awards, but as Mr. Pickles started to take a huge chunk of money out of us at Harrow, we realised that vision needed to change. So a couple of years ago, we decided, do you know what? Everything's going to be online. We'll only have a phone system where we really need it, and face-to-face really will be for the most vulnerable people in society. But generally, everything will be done online. Where did we start? Well, going back to the data, what's important? What is the data telling you to do? And start looking for the low-hanging fruit. High volume, low risk. Low political sensitivity, you know, probably good to get councillors on board quite early on. Make sure you don't start picking at their services that are close to their hearts. I always say look for a friendly face. As I said, we run all customer services, we run all services through what we call Access Harrow. Some people were brought in kicking and screaming, some people were more than happy for us to run their service. I would always start channel shifting with the people who are happy that you were running their service in the first place. What's key to it is about owning the process. You know, because we owned the front door to everything, we had the processes to start messing around with and start exploring about how they worked best online. Something else I would advise you to, when I took over the web team about 4 years ago, and the LLPG was part of the web team, and it's fair to say I spent the first 6 months trying to offload it because, well, if I'm honest, it's incredibly dull. You know, and we really struggled to get our head around the importance of it. But actually, within 6 months, we probably began to realise it's probably the most important thing we own. That sort of sense of making sure we have a single unique reference number for every single property in the borough is key. Because, you know, certainly on CRM, where you've got Mr. Jones who lives at flat 7, 24 the High Street, can also be recorded as Mr. Jones who lives at 24 the High Street, or just flat 7 the High. Trying to pull all that information together is a nightmare. But if it's all run through the LLPG, actually then your life becomes a hell of a lot easier. The business case, well, I suppose it's really about what makes sense. You know, you will all have a sense of, you know, we live in different worlds, we live in a world of austerity. What you want to do needs to be able to be paid back in the short term, I guess now, rather than the medium term. The thing we always say is about ensuring that what you do on self-serve needs to replicate what people are phoning you up about or what people are contacting you about. You know, because that's the only way you're really going to take demand out of the call centre or face-to-face is by making sure that A, it's better, but also it's doing the same thing. And I suppose there's different ways of identifying. There's expensive stuff, there's system integration, which can be quite costly but very effective. But it also works the bottom end as well. Changing web content is quite an easy way to get people to go online. To give you an example, in Harrow we have a couple of central web editors, but the service pages are actually updated within the back offices, because we always felt the people who really understand the business are the people who work in the back offices. But sort of what we ended up with is planners know a lot about permitted development. And I can tell you now, in the last 4.5, 5 years that we've run the planning front end, nobody has ever phoned up our call centre and said, I'd like to talk to you about permitted development. What customers phone us up about is, I would like to build an extension, what do I need to do? Can I convert my loft into a bedroom? And that's what needs to be replicated on your website to ensure people start using things online. Be innovative. You know, it's constantly about changing the way things are done. You know, I fully agree. Digital is changing the world at a rapid pace. You know, but we constantly need to come up with new ideas about how to do things. You know, generally, how it works in Harrow is the staff come up with some fantastic ways of doing new things. And when they work, it was always my idea. School admissions is a good example. I don't actually come from a local authority background. Call centres were my baby, from a very dysfunctional baby, my Nick. But call centres has always been my true love. And when I started working in local authority, I just could not get my head around school admissions. And I certainly couldn't get my head around why we put it into a call centre environment, because from month to month, it just varied so much. And in fact, your average monthly volume was only hit once sort of in June, July time. So, you know, why on earth would we want that service running in a call centre environment? It's impossible to resource against. But then when we started to try and digitalise it, to say, right, well actually, the whole schools process is available online. You know, you can start applying for your schools online. You know, that made life a lot easier for us. The other thing that really used to annoy us was people phoning up to say, well, I didn't get my first choice, so I want to know where I'm on the waiting list. But they don't do it once, they do it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day, because they want to see if they've got any further up the list. So what we did in Harrow was we actually put the waiting list online through the My Harrow account. We know people authenticated. I mentioned earlier we get them to put their children's dates on there. So if they don't get their first choice school and they want to see where they are on the waiting list, they have to go online to do it. As a result, call volumes fallen to the bottom of the floor now. What we have now is virtually a completely online process. Harrow is, we've started to replicate Groupon, but at a local level. So again, working with Ganlake and another company called Spark Global, we started to push out local deals. So we've, so before you take a photo, that's copyrighted. But what we've done is been working with local businesses and the regeneration team to start getting local businesses on board to start offering deals. Because what we have with the My Harrow account is access to 90,000 households in Harrow. So we can start pushing out lots of information to them. So if they want to start giving special deals, we will start pushing them out to residents to say, hey, you can go into this shop, download, a bit like Groupon or so on and so forth, download the voucher, show it to them, and you'll get a special discount. And what we do is we offer it to our local suppliers free for 6 months. They can get a feel for how it works. We then charge them £20 a month, £250 a year, peanuts to them, and actually starts to create a bit of regular income back into the council. My last tip there is about never giving up. You know, it's we will always come up with lots of stupid ideas well before we come up with some real good ideas. Early on, I thought it would be a great idea to get the dustmen to become social workers as well, because they're out on the streets every day. Didn't go down very well. But generally, you know, start chucking out all different ideas, try and see if they work. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I always think it's important that we don't get our staff, you know, our staff can get very despondent if we just turn around and say, no, that doesn't work. You know, when they come up with ideas, I'm a great believer in giving them the opportunity to start working them through to see or not how well they can be adapted. Sweat your assets. So we have a lot of stuff already available that we can start using more effectively. So we had a drop-in service in Harrow. We used to tell people, come in wherever you like, you can sit face to face with one of our advisors. It was quite costly to run and people probably came in for a bit of a chat. So we moved to an appointment-only service to start squashing and squeezing out demand. We moved from about 26 desks down to, at the time, about 12, because we realised people didn't really need to come in. But actually, we've now got to the point where the desks on the right, we now really have a self-service area. So we now have 4 desks where the advisors are available. They will only talk to people if someone's about to be evicted or if the bailiffs are knocking at the door. Everything else, we take people to these desks. We have a fully integrated benefits form, council tax support form, and a bit like the Apple store where you'd have one person maybe looking after 4 or 5 people online. They will just sort of work between residents and just help them to transact online. Likewise with cash, very bright kiosks on the right. We don't, you know, I'm sure, does anybody still have cashiers functions? Okay. You know, again, one of those things we were told people would hate it. We bought it in about 19 years ago. Again, we've had no complaints. The kiosk thing on the left is just people come in. If they've got someone to see, they do it online. They just push a button and it calls them automatically. Telephony. Say, I'm a call centre person at heart. So I know Chelmsford do it. We've taken a few tips on how they do it. We use AI to answer our switchboard. Again, a lot cheaper than having people who generally pick up the phone and transfer it to someone who works 4 desks down. I would say if you've got a call centre system, there's much more effective ways to use it. Make sure you start getting the benefits of skills-based routing, i.e. multi-source skill your staff more effectively. But also about how you, again, in terms of those mistakes, when you phoned up our council tax and benefits lines, it used to say press 1 for council tax, press 2 for benefits, press 3 if you want to make a payment. You know how many people got to 3 because they'd already pressed council tax or benefits. So one of the staff said, have we ever thought about moving payments to the first option? And it did. It took out about 1/3 of our calls. And again, being very proactive with messages. So things like application time. You generally know how far behind, or if they're on time, people are with planning applications or benefit applications. So rather than people going through an agent to say, no, sorry, we haven't got to that yet, actually just push it out either online or on the telephone. So if you're phoning up to chase your benefit application, this is the date the team are working at. If you've sent it after this date, please press 1 to terminate the call. Likewise, the weather. I did hear that it was going to start snowing at the end of this month. Always puts a fear into me because it means lots and lots of phone calls. People saying, why don't you grip my cul-de-sac? Why haven't the dustbin trucks come to collect my rubbish? We know what the answers are to these. We know we're going to get lots of calls about it. Stick it for the first message, say, if you're phoning up about this, this is the answer, please go away. Nicely. You can tell I don't do the messages for the IVO. The other thing we've done in Harrow quite recently is change the contact us page. So actually, I usually pick on Lambeth, and as they're not here, I can't do so today. But when Lambeth came to see us a few years ago, they used to get loads and loads of phone calls. And when we looked at their website, in the middle of their website was their telephone number and their generic email address. It was all there, we think we've found your problem. And we actually went one step further. We used to have the contact us page, and we just used to list all the telephone numbers because we had a range of golden numbers. But again, what we noticed was people would go online, find our telephone number and call us. And then when they phoned us about something that they could have done online. So similar to Waitrose, which is always good when the councillors get on your back about this, well, John Lewis do it. We took off our telephone numbers and we started to embed them in the service pages within the website, but only where you can't do it online. So if you go to report a missed bin on Harrow, when you go to the Contact Us page, there won't be a telephone number because you're already on our website and the website will tell you why your bin wasn't collected. So there's not many telephone numbers left on the council website. It infuriates some people, but it does at least push them to doing things online. And remember, if anyone complains, John Lewis do it. Call centre staff, absolutely vital in shifting people. We motivate our staff in, we incentivise. We bribe our staff to do it. In the call centre, we offer an iPad, usually on a quarterly or 6 monthly basis. For the sake of £200–300 to get another 2,000 or 3,000 people signed up for an account and use it. Bit of a no-brainer for us. But again, it's also part of their performance management, and when they have their monthly one-to-ones with their team leader, that process is all about generating more ideas about how we can help people help themselves. I say cough up, show me the money. Actually, if you're really trying to embed a channel shift program, you need to gain credibility early. We remember those good old days where we always used to talk about efficiency savings, which meant we made a saving, but we wanted to keep the budget. Actually, life has moved on. If you make a saving, push it out back into the central pot as quickly as you can, because it gives you credibility and it gives you traction. It's a good way to start then working with other parts of the council who are sometimes resistant. It helps because they can see that you're offering up money and you're making physical savings. In Harrow, it's big savings for us. The year after next, we'll be taking £1.3 million out of my budget. It'll leave me with about 3 men and a dog and a web team. But we're confident we will have the solution in place to deal with everything. The other thing I will say quickly about cashable savings is they're not all at the front office. A lot of what you do, so when you start integrating into back office systems, certainly around benefit claim forms, so let's say we work with GovTech and Gandlake and somebody else who does the risk rating score, who I've forgotten, it actually starts doing the work into the back office system. So the back office will start releasing resources and savings as well. When we did the annual canvas, they used to employ 5–6 temps to keep taking all the forms and typing into a back-end system. Because it was fully integrated, it saved the back office another 120, 130 grand a year. And also, all the savings that come from post, printing, envelopes, the more you can push online, the more you can get people to apply online and receive letters and responses online, actually, you know, all those savings start to add up. Evolve consistently. You know, we've talked about the devices. Nowadays, I would say it's a no-brainer. I would say everybody's websites are fully adaptable and reactive. Responsive design, I think is the word I'm looking for. Look at you, yes. So it needs to work well on devices as well as it does on a PC. 78% of the country now own a smartphone, I'm reliably informed. In Harrow, 46% of everybody who accesses our website does so through a tablet or a mobile phone. So again, it's absolutely vital that your website is fully responsive. The next big thing for us is, I was saying one of my favourite groups was the Spice Girls. I'm sure it was for most of you who grew up in the 80s and the 90s. So to become one, Amazon don't have a website and a portal. They have a single site that you log in when you start looking at sensitive information. What we've started to build at Harrow is a way to combine our authentication with our customer with our website. So actually when people go into the website, it's a very much personalised look and feel. They go on, so this is a mock-up, this isn't what's there yet, but as you go onto the environmental pages, actually it'll start pushing out, your bin collection is, the road will be swept at this time. You know, you reported these fly tips in your area. It just starts pushing that information out automatically rather than expecting the customer to go and find it. We will push, a bit like what was just being said previously about pushing out relevant information. Said it before, paper is disappearing, local authorities, no idea. I always just assumed that we have big lucrative contracts with Staples and other paper suppliers because I've never known any business to generate paper like local authorities do. You know, I travel to Harrow by train, I have a Kindle, so I'm a big user of Chelmsford Library Service, which is fantastic if anybody's here from the library service. No? Okay. So it's a shame, I've got a list of books I'd like you to bring in, but I do love the library service at Chelmsford. But you know, generally, more and more people I see using Kindles or devices to read books. Our tax disc has disappeared, things like boarding passes have started to disappear. People are using devices and we need to get with the times in local authority. And who really knows where that's going to change? You know, we don't know what's going to happen in the futures. You know, the Xbox got very... Yeah, I don't know if it's true, but I read that, you know, that actually the reason Microsoft introduced the Kinect box was they wanted to get a better understanding of how people adapted to that sort of TV using their hands, and actually a bit longer. Now we do see that televisions have started to adapt that type of technology. You know, Google Glasses, Google experimented, it hasn't kicked off, but I very much imagine it will come back again soon. You know, technology is ever changing and we need to be ready to change as and when. So, I'll just finish finally. Aside, you know, it is the rise of the self-server for us. You know, we see more and more people being more willing to adapt to self-serve technology. The website is still key for us at the moment. But again, you know, I say about the telephony, 35,000 people a month in Harrow use our telephone system to self-serve rather than talking to a person. It's around about now 45% of all our telephony, which is huge. You know, if you think about 35, that's about another 35 to 40 FTE would need to be registered in the call centre to answer all those calls. That's me done. So thank you very much.